Thanks so much for doing this also. Really appreciate it.
Let me see if I can give you any clever answers today.
So this is the Beanball with Ben Berkon. My special guest today is Ripken Jr., Hall of Famer, Baltimore Orioles great. You retired in 2001, but obviously you've been following the game since. What, in your opinion, has changed most about baseball?
I always think there's a natural evolution of the game. You know, I'm one of those persons that think the game is better because it builds on itself each and every year. The specialization of the bullpen continues to be more refined. The use of data and statistics, especially for defensive positioning, has really radically changed here recently. People are using that data to make stronger decisions on where to play people. But the game itself, 60 feet from the rubber to home plate, 90 feet in between the bases, the fences are relatively the same,
Right.
so it's the same game we're watching.
What young players are sort of exciting to watch?
Well, I mean, you got the big three in some ways. You got Bryce Harper and Mike Trout, and you add Manny Machado from Baltimore into that mix. Those guys are extremely young, but they're playing like they're 30 years old.
Right.
They come in with the ability to make an impact immediately on your team. Being from Baltimore, I'm keeping a careful eye on Manny Machado. Had a chance to meet him, know him a little bit, talk to him specifically about baseball. He's got a high aptitude for baseball in general. And I love to watch him because he seems like he's exploring third base with his skills. You know, as he plays on the shift, sometimes he's way over in right center field or right field because Buck has put him over there because he has a strong arm. And you see him moving all the way back, playing as deep as he can, you know, in all situations, really gauging, okay, here are my skill sets. Where can I play in the field and still make all these plays? So I love watching Manny. I want to see him at shortstop. You know, if I was in charge of the Orioles, I would not change him from third base to shortstop right now because J.J. Hardy is a Gold Glove guy, and that combination is super on that left side of the infield. But talking to him about shortstop, I think he thinks about shortstop in a similar way that I did, and he has long and rangy skills. You know, at this time, he's a big guy and is learning how to make all the plays. So I'd love to see how he attacks the position of shortstop, but I would imagine he's going to stay over at third for a couple more years.
A lot of people credit Earl Weaver with being one of the early in-game pioneers of Sabermetrics. Do you feel it's an important part of the game now? It's sort of become an industry standard.
I'm not offended by it. I mean, I'm not someone that says you're old school and that data has no value. All data has value. And at the position of shortstop, I would take in all that data naturally and make pitch-to-pitch decisions on where I wanted to play and where the ball was going to go, and understand that. So I like analyzing it. It's not the end all. You still have to add your baseball know-how and your understanding. And some of these numbers that you put don't consider all the factors as they go, but it is what it is. You'd be dumb not to take that information in and try to mold it to how you see the game. There's probably a nice balance between, you know, the data and the numbers and your subjective baseball opinions and your understanding of the intangibles and your life's work. So you'd be dumb not to consider it.
Hitters don't often change their swing, yet throughout your career, you seemingly had a new swing almost every year.
A new stance. And that's the difference in the analyst would put my my new stance up on a screen and compare it to another stance. And it would look very radically different, and it probably was. But a stance is just a starting point. They should have been analyzing the swing, you know, when the pitcher was right here. And you'd find out that they were pretty similar. So it wasn't any sort of radical change in my approach or how I hit. I hit by feel. And sometimes in batting practice, if it wasn't working, I would try other things to get that feel. And all of a sudden it would start working. And I couldn't tell you why, but I knew that I started open, then started to close, or I started wider, or I started upright, or I started closed more. Whatever the case may be, when it clicked, I go, okay, that's the feeling I want. So I would take that into the game. So it's tinkering, it's an adjustment, but it wasn't changing my swing, it was just changing my starting point.
A lot of people consider your consecutive game streak one of the most unbreakable records. Do you think, looking back on it, there was ever a point where you did your body or even performance a disservice by continuing with it?
Well, I mean, I could probably make a case if I decided to take 8 to 10 games off a year and I handpicked my off days, that my average numbers would be better and maybe my power numbers might ultimately be better because it's a load off your mind. But your role as a baseball player, in my opinion, is to come try to meet the challenge of today. You're trying to win. And the nature of being a professional baseball player is you have a game every single day. Now, it's not for me to decide whether I should play. It's for the manager. And if you were the manager, I'm coming to you saying, I'm ready to play. And if you pick me, then I play. And I think that's a sense of responsibility to the team. So in some ways, you might be sacrificing some of your individual accolades or some of your individual stats for the sake of the team, but that's what it's all about. You're trying to win.
If you were a manager in today's game, would you encourage your players to keep playing through injury, or would you encourage them to take a game off?
I would encourage players today to find themselves. I took a great pride in seeing some players push themselves. Brady Anderson, I think B.J. Surhoff actually played 162. And you're really testing yourself to see if you can do it. And if you figure out that you can do it and you can finish strong in the month of September, you've eliminated all the reasons for your slump that are physical. You could say, I can do that. Physically, I have the ability to do that. So then that would help you mentally. And I think there are certain type players, you see the attitude of Adam Jones as a center fielder. He wants to be out there every day because he is that type of player that's in the middle of the lineup, middle of the defense out in center field, and it feels like somebody's missing if he's not in that game. So he's taken on that responsibility. Prince Fielder, I haven't talked to Prince Fielder about this, but I love it's a matter of fact that he's going to be in the lineup every single day. To me, that's that attitude. Now, not everybody can do it, but I would encourage people to find out what are their capabilities.
What was the most painful injury that you decided to play through to keep the streak alive?
I played through a herniated disc in my back, which is the most painful for 6 weeks, and you couldn't get comfortable. But that was after the record was already broken. So, I mean, I didn't go out there to play for the sake of the streak or to keep the streak alive. I went out there and played because I could. And in the year where I played through a herniated disc, it was 1997. We were really good. We beat the Yankees from the first day of the season in their run till the last day of the season. And I wanted to participate in that, and we were breaking down a little bit. And I thought it was one of the greatest examples. Davey Johnson virtually looked at me and said, "Can you play?" And everybody else was a foregone conclusion that I was out 6 weeks. And I pushed through it and was able to compete and contribute. And we pushed the Yankees back and we won the division, which was very gratifying. So the herniated disc was the most painful to play through.
Besides breaking the consecutive game streak, what was another great moment for you?
Well, if I had to look at my whole career and kind of identify a couple of moments, winning the World Series is the most gratifying, period. Not even close. Anything else can compare to that. And I don't know if it's part of the dream that you want to be a big league player and you envision yourself being a star in the World Series and winning. But when I caught the last out of the '83 World Series, there was a feeling of fulfillment, contentment, and a joy that nothing else comes close to. Now, from a human standpoint, the consecutive games record, night of September 6, 1995, the celebration around that, the lap around the ballpark, the personal feeling, the human interaction, and taking a celebration to go more personal, that was probably the best human moment that I had on the field. I got to celebrate with my family in the middle of all that. I got to embrace the other team in the middle of all that. People clapped for me for over 20 minutes. You know, I kept acknowledging it and kind of in a humble, embarrassed sort of way. But when you look back on it, that celebration was really, really special. So I got to look at those two moments, but they're different in some ways, but they're still great.
You were a Baltimore Oriole for 21 years. Was there ever a point in your career when you said, I've had enough of Baltimore, I'm ready to leave? Not that Baltimore, not saying anything about Baltimore.
We had a lot of ups and downs in Baltimore, and the hard part about playing a whole long career is that you have to endure those ups and downs. You don't have to. My dad finally waited in line and got the managing job. We didn't have a good team in '87. We lost a lot of games. And then 1988 occurred. We lost the first 6 games, and they fired my dad. I was a free agent at the end of that year. And the club didn't think that I was going to sign back. And if I had to make that decision in the first couple months, I wouldn't have been back. I actually thought about, okay, where can I play now? The Orioles aren't the same anymore. They're changing. And so for that period of time, I thought I would play someplace else. And then after you get through it, you realize that you're young enough in which to withstand a rebuilding process. And you got to ask yourself if you want to. And I valued being in my home city, in my home town, playing with Baltimore, on my uniform.
Shifting for a moment, the topic of steroids. Do you think that players who have been indicated or who have admitted to it deserve to be?
I guess we get into what does indication mean and what does their admission mean. It is interesting. No players were voted into the Hall of Fame this coming year. I'm going to the Hall of Fame ceremonies and I'm reading Lou Gehrig's plaque because he was never formally inducted. And when you think about that decision, you think about the people that are voting for the Hall of Fame, they're sitting in judgment of your career. And so it is interesting. What it tells me is in order to judge, you have to have all the facts. And it seemed like the voters this year almost said we don't have all the facts, so we should wait in that judgment. The cloud that is lingering over one player's head, or the cloud that's hanging over baseball, I think that's the hard part. How does the fans start to look at that? How do we depict the steroid era? How do we depict someone's individual accomplishments, and how do we accept that? I think everybody's struggling with that right now because of some of the admissions. I don't have an answer for it. I'm struggling trying to understand and how to evaluate what happened. I think you only really can control yourself to be able to look in the mirror at the end of the day and said, that was me, and I did it the best of my ability, and then you can feel good with your life. I would think that all the players that made a choice, it might not seem like a radical bad choice at the time, but I would imagine all of them that made that choice probably regret it in the end.
Since you retired, you started Ripken Baseball. What's the company's vision, and how do you think it'll help the future of the game?
Well, I think in many ways I wanted to capitalize on the influence I had in baseball to encourage other kids to play more baseball. And I realized early on that it can't be all philanthropic. You got to build some businesses that can be self-sustaining. And so we have proved a couple models out. We have a weekend model in Aberdeen, and we have a week-long tournament destination in Myrtle Beach. And now we've proven those models, and we're looking to expand those. And really the idea is to get more kids playing and spread out your influence all the way around the country. So I feel really good about having success in those two models, and I look really forward to being able to move those around and affect more kids all the way across the country.
Also, since retiring, you've become a Goodwill ambassador for Transitions. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
It's a wonderful partnership, and we're actually exploring doing wonderful things with kids, getting their eyes tested, and I love being able to deliver that message. Don't forget about your eyes. 1 in 4 kids, and this is all kids, have something in their vision that affects their ability to learn. And so the simple fix is just go get your eyes tested. And then Transition's taken that to another level, and we're actually going into environments like where we go with the Cal Ripken Senior Foundation to kids that don't have all the advantages, and we're taking a mobile truck in there. We're getting their eyes tested, building their glasses on the truck, and they pick them out, and then they come out, and now they have an opportunity to open up their world and learn and have a chance. So I've thoroughly enjoyed the partnership with Transitions Optical, and I look forward to doing more and more good things with them.
Looking forward into the second half, what do you think the Baltimore Orioles' chances are of making the playoffs?
Well, you could make a case for any one of the 5 teams in that division. In the very beginning, as an analyst now, I'm supposed to do all this kind of stuff. But, you look at them and you go, I can make a case for every one of them to win the division. And everyone thought maybe the Orioles might be a flash in the pan because everything went so good for them last year. A lot of one-run wins, sort of that Oriole magic in extra innings, and there's no way that could happen again. But Buck Showalter's a great baseball guy. He continues to get those guys believing that they can play. They're right there, and they're not going away. I think they have an excellent chance to make the playoffs and really make a push. They're better off this year than they were last year. So as an Oriole fan and as an analyst, they're a playoff caliber team. You got to go earn it, but they're going to be there.
Well, that's it for today. This has been the Beanball with Ben Berkon. And again, I want to thank my guest, Cal Ripken Jr. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we didn't talk about beanballs.
That's just the name of my blog.
I know.